Good evening, everybody. Let's call tonight's meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just wanted to begin to see if we could have a motion to add one item to the agenda. This would be the public gathering permit application for Simsbury Celebrates. It would go under item H, under Selectmen Action.
So moved.
Second.
Any further conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. We'll have public audience now. Any member of the public can speak for up to 5 minutes. Helen?
Good evening, everyone. Helen Peterson, 20 Longview Drive. Oh, something new, I guess, huh?
All the rules.
Well, thank you. Good evening. This coming election is important to all of us and for a lot of good reasons. Many reasons, but tonight I'm here to sort of urge you and everyone in the television audience as well as in the room here to pay attention to question number 2. It's on the ballot. It's about land preservation. Currently, and I'm holding this up because it was a very interesting flyer that was produced by Eric Hammerling, if you remember Eric. Okay, so let me tell you what it's about, just in case. Currently, the Connecticut General Assembly can require to sell, swap, or even give away our state parks, forests, and our farmlands, all very valuable public lands. And they can do this through legislation and without any public input. So, by voting yes to question number 2, we change the Constitution. The General Assembly then will be required to hold public hearings, and it will be followed by a 2/3 vote of the Assembly. Such transparency and accountability is necessary. So, a reminder, with a yes vote to question number 2 on the ballot, we can assure that we have a voice not only now, but forever, in determining such important decisions. So, remember, vote on November 6th, and then yes to question number 2. And in my 84 years, I have missed one election, one that I qualified to vote in. And so I will excuse myself to go across the hall. I missed that election, and it could have been avoided if I had voted early, but it happened. So with your permission, your excuse, I am going across the hall to vote before they close the door.
Thank you, Helen.
Thanks, Mom.
I'll be back.
I think that's the first applause we've gotten in public audience.
That's good.
Joan?
Joan Coe, 26 Whitcomb Drive. At the October 10th, 2018 Board of Selectmen meeting, First Selectman Eric Wellman stated that he reversed the agenda items with First Selectman and Town Manager reports at the bottom of the agenda due to a hard stop at 7 p.m. It appeared that the hard stop was decided prior to the meeting since the board members were not surprised by First Selectman Eric Wellman's request for a hard stop at 7 p.m. with no discussion about this absurd decision. First Selectman Eric Wellman stated that he proposes that First Selectman and Town Manager's report be posted online so the Board of Selectmen can adjourn at a good time. Meeting was adjourned at 7 p.m. This decision has many unintended consequences. The viewers of SCTV who have listened to all the meetings and may not have access to computers or know how to access information rely on SCTV for their information. Many seniors have not viewed these reports since they are not computer savvy. Reports will not be transmitted in public in a timely manner since the viewers are at the mercy of a computer for information. Town Manager Maria Caprioli has continually stressed her interest in open government. This is a complete antithesis of her beliefs. This could be precedent-setting in that all boards and commissions can now have a hard stop with all reports submitted online for public consumption. There will be no need for attendance for staff to report in public. The agenda items for boards and commissions could note all reports submitted from staff to boards and commissioners will be posted online for public viewing. There will be no need for SCTV to transmit the information to the public. I cannot believe that our elected first selectmen and board of selectmen as public servants would condone the use of online delivery of public information in lieu of reporting in person in front of SCTV. Shame on the elected first selectman Eric Wellman and the elected members of the board of selectmen. The agenda item Gifts of Love Bond Conversion Project is an affront to the donation of 140 acres of land through the Eno Trust, quote, for the poor of Simsbury, end quote. The Eno Trust states, and I quote, I hereby quit claim to the town of Simsbury to be used for the occupation, maintenance, and support of the town poor of Simsbury, and for no other purpose whatsoever, and only for so long as it shall be occupied and used, and only for so long as the town shall care for and support its poor on the said farm without contracting them out to any person or persons for their care and maintenance, shall such farm belong to said town. When it shall cease to be so occupied, it shall revert to the grantor, end quote. The Eno family never envisioned a poor farm with a banquet hall with crystal chandeliers and air conditioning, not to mention the overhead costs. How many poor people will be able to afford to have their weddings at the poor farm? It is time that the town manager, Maria Caprioli, discuss this issue of town's compliance with the Eno Trust with the Charities Division at the Attorney General's office. From 2017 to 2018, the town has collected $1,170,712.26 from building permits. More revenue will be coming in when many of the developments get certificates of occupancy. This money should be used to decrease the debt, increase revenue to the medical and pension benefit programs, and maintain roads and buildings. It should be used to decrease the mill rate to make Simsbury competitive with other towns. As an advocate for increased pickleball use in Simsbury, I would like to compliment the Board of Education for lining the Henry James Middle School tennis courts for pickleball. These courts were used during the summer with all courts filled with players. When school started, the pickleball courts were not available. As a result of our advocacy for pickleball courts, Henry James Middle School has incorporated pickleball into their gym program. However, Simsbury Farm staff was approached to line the tennis courts and has denied the request. The recreational players would not be confused with the lines as noted in the pickleball courts, which you can see here at the Windsor Senior Center. Many Simsbury fields are lined for multi-use play without any distractions. The town should encourage people to participate in recreational sports, not place roadblocks in their paths. The line could be applied with town equipment at very low cost. I was very surprised when I heard that the Simsbury Democratic headquarters will be located at the Iron Horse Pub on Iron Horse Boulevard on Election Day. I guess the slogan for the Democratic Party is eat, drink, and be merry, win or lose. All of my comments will be posted on Simsbury Patch, Twitter at Joan Co., Newsfeed on Facebook, and Simsbury Forum Topics. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Joan. Who else would like to speak tonight? Yes.
Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
Wilson Keith Line on behalf of the Theater Guild of Simsbury. I come here for a couple of reasons, but the big one is to thank you and the Board of Education for making it possible for the Theater Guild of Simsbury to put on its musicals. This time in November, it's going to be Hollywood in Vegas. Now, without your strong support, and you don't all go back 40 years, we couldn't have put on shows, as we have been, for the last 40 years. We rehearse at the Boy Scout Hall, the Eno, and then we perform at the high school auditorium. Now, I'm wearing a suit, but please envision me in an Elvis Presley costume. I and a bunch of my actors, also in Elvis Presley costumes, will parachute onto the high school stage in the final act of this musical, The Hollywood in Vegas. It'll be fast, funny, and irresistible, new musical that's filled to the brim with songs and characters. It'll be full of skydiving Elvises, sexy chorus girls, red-hot romance, and some really cold feet. Now, our performances are on the second and third weekend of November, and tickets are available at the Simsbury Senior Center, Fitzgerald's, as well as online and at the door. We look forward not only to seeing all of you, but all of you, and we look forward to it, and I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please know that had you worn an Elvis suit, that would have been fantastic.
Bah humbug.
Or you could parachute in.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Who else would like to speak in public audience tonight? Okay. In that case,
Eric, I think
oh, wait,
so.
am I missing? Oh, Susan.
Susan?
Susan Messino, 41 Madison Lane. I don't have a pen to sign this, but I was here, I heard that Helen already spoke very briefly tonight about the question 2 on the ballot for public land. I don't know if she mentioned that on average, 5 pieces of public land are swapped or sold every year without a public hearing. So this is a nonpartisan issue. It passed unanimously in the Senate and by more than 2/3 of the House. So we need to make sure that we send a very strong message and vote for this. Even if you don't want to vote for anything else, please go to the polls and vote for support for public land. I'm also here on behalf of the Grange because we're having a gardening 101 workshop tomorrow night called Cultivating Health in Your Garden. You can do it, we can help, or we can help and you can do it. It's going to be at 6 p.m. at the Grange. We're going to have dinner. It's going to be about 6 to 7:30, and I'm co-hosting it with John Gooch, who has done an amazing job with his garden just in his backyard in Simsbury. He even started a little neighborhood informal CSA. So that's how much you can do with your little real estate in your garden. In case I can't come back before then, we're also having a Beekeeping 101 workshop at the library on November 19th. So it's the Monday of Thanksgiving week. We're going to have refreshments there. We have someone who's a teacher at the Hartford Magnet School who very successfully keeps bees at his house and in Hartford at a community garden and works with his students with the bees. So I know there's been a lot of interest in beekeeping and bee health and pollinator habitat. So this will be kind of a how-to workshop. He'll have demonstration equipment, tell you kind of the do's and don'ts and time schedule for that. And related to the Public Lands Act, I brought this information card in case people are interested. I will pass them out.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. Anybody else we're missing for public audience tonight? Yes.
Didn't get to dress up, sorry.
Not at all.
It's very
Can
authentic.
you have that pen, Susan?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now we know what happened to the last pen.
Good chance.
I'm Nevin Christensen, owner of Flammick Farm, along with my wife Julie. We've been in town, 44 West Mountain Road, that's where I live. Big Backwards Eggs artwork. Couple of issues. Well, Flamig has been in town for a long time. We sort of do what we need to do to survive. One of the things we recently started a few years ago, I don't know exactly when, time escapes me, but is an Airbnb in a little apartment we have above our party room at the farm. We got a cease and desist order from the zoning commission to take our Airbnb down. We're booked months and months, if not years in advance. So we did not take it down. We're threatened with fines, et cetera, but we decided we're just going ahead with this, and we'll see where the chips fall. We'd like to see that straightened out. Town will need to address Airbnbs in whatever ways are appropriate, but it's, in my opinion, it's time to get going, and let's do that. The other thing we have recently decided to do, we're trying to support the next generation. My 19-year-old son has decided, I'm not going to college. I'm going to stay here and learn the farming business. He was scheduled to go learn agriculture and environmental sciences, and all of a sudden surprised us with, I'm not going. If I ever need to go to college, I will, but I'm going to stay here, learn the farm operation, be an entrepreneur, make my living, and do it, which is great because I need to slow down. And one of the things Julie and Pete have really talked about is doing a wedding business. We've done weddings for friends on our farm out in the far field, put up a tent. They've been marvelous. We renewed our vows there. Happy, happy, happy stuff. So we're now trying to look into that. We have an option to buy a used tent at the right price, but that option is going to go away, and we need to deal with zoning in a somewhat quick manner to get an answer. Can we do it or not do it? Because we don't want to spend the $12,000 if they're going to tell us, no, you can't. Julie emailed zoning a week ago.
Yeah, but I've been calling for the past 2 months.
You want to come talk?
Well, I don't think we can talk.
Okay. I think Julie will come up and tell you that story. Right, honey?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, please come on up.
Hi, everybody. I am Julie Christensen, or Farmer Julie. I run Flamig Farm with Nevin, and Flamig Farm is located at 7 Shingle Mill Road. However, our physical address is 44 West Mountain. Flamig Farm is very dear to so many people, from campers to people who've had weddings there, to our children, to the farm stay people who come back year after year after year. So Flamig Farm is growing, and Flamig Farm is positive. And positive attracts more positive, so I need to share my positive energy of the farm with more people. I was approached about weddings, how beautiful our field is. We're off-grid. We have no neighbors surrounding us. We're, surrounded by Toll Meadow, which I've already talked to Don and Buzz, and they are completely 100% on board for us to have the farm grow, especially with Pete coming on board, the 19-year-old Nevin mentioned. He really has his heart in the game, and he wants to take the reins of the farm, and it needs to grow or die. So we want to grow, and we want to offer weddings from May to September. We're still going to do the Halloween, even though that's why we have gray hair. A lot of people seem to still like it, so I won't give that up yet. But as Nevin said, we need to slow down, so the farm needs to move in a direction where we can make some money and keep it surviving for the next generation. So I have sent emails. I want to buy this tent. I want to move forward. I want to get my website up because I know it's going to be a year till I can start booking, and no one gets back to me on what to do. So I really would like to know what to do. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming here tonight.
Yep.
Anybody else in public audience tonight? Okay. We're going to move on now to presentations. One presentation tonight from the Gifts of Love, which operates the community farm in Simsbury. They're interested in renovating a historic barn on the property to turn it into meeting and event space. And eventually, if this project is going to happen, the Board of Selectmen needs to accept the capital improvement, since it would be a town asset. The purpose of the presentation tonight is informational. It gives us the opportunity to ask any questions very early on in the process. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Executive Director of Gifts of Love, Susan Pribison, and she'll introduce the others who are here.
Oh, can I move it over here? Oh, that would be great. Then I don't have to walk over. Good evening. As he said, I'm Susan Pribison. I'm the Executive Director with Gifts of Love. I came on board almost 2 years ago and absolutely love this organization and all that it does. And I would like to thank all of you for giving us the opportunity to come here and share our ideas. Right now, it is still just very much a conception, but I am going to share the history of how we even got to where we're at. I'm not here alone, so I want to introduce the other people that are here as part of our committee. First, I'd like to introduce Joe Buda with the Historical Society. This was actually his idea. He talked to me about it from the day that I arrived many times, but we never had the right moment where it became a priority or something to do until we were approached to host a 350th birthday party for the town out at the farm, and that's when it started really gaining some traction. I'd also, I have Doug Sachs here, who is our grant writer and has a barn knowledge and has been taking a big lead in this. I had Donna Sennett, who is here with the Theater Guild of Simsbury, which we'll talk about a partnership there. We don't have Matt Whitmer here tonight, but he is the pro bono graphics person, and he did put together some of this presentation for us. Unfortunately, didn't come up with a drawing of a barn, but not yet. He will. And I also have a board member here with us, Lydia Tadone. So, and you guys can chip in anytime. Okay. Oh, go that way. Okay. First slide is a little long, but they get shorter after this. But just to recap, history of Gifts of Love was actually founded 29 years ago in the town of Simsbury when one neighbor noticed that the other neighbor, their job had downsized. It was in the late 80s. There was quite a bit of that going on. And she walked around the neighborhood collecting clothing, food, things that would help the family out during their financial crisis. And from there, the word began to spread, and they actually operated the very first year out of that woman's garage before they actually opened an office and became an LLC here in Simsbury. Since then, they've had a couple of the different locations in Avon, and we are currently on 34 East Main Street in Avon. The history of the Simsbury Poor Farm is that, I mean, actually the farm itself has very rich history as far as being owned by the Wolcotts, first colonial governor, that's why it's named Wolcott Street. But back in 1882, Amos R. Eno dedicated it to the town. At the time, he was living in New York. He was a very wealthy philanthropist, but he was a Simsbury native. And so he bought the farm for $3,000 and deeded it to the town for the purpose of feeding the poor. And that is still the main purpose of the farm today. In 2013, Gifts of Love merged with the Simsbury Community Farm. And the merger took place because of the similar missions. Now remember, we serve people who are in temporary financial crisis, and the town farm is charged with helping those that need food. So after the merger, what we've done, our current services, I'll tell you about the Gifts of Love services and then the farm services, but we provide services for 1 year to low-income families in financial crisis. They come once a month, they get clothing, housewares, food, and after 3 months, they also get furniture. The idea is that it takes the financial burden off in those areas so they can regain stability in their lives. Out at the farm, we grow produce and we donate it. We donate it to Simsbury Social Services for 20 weeks from June through October. Kristen can share with you about that. We also donate it to our own food pantry, and we donate to 3 shelters in Hartford.
The donations in Hartford are supported by a grant. The rest is supported strictly by us. To run a 77-acre farm costs a lot of money. And so, yes, we do have other revenue streams that we have to pay our farmer to order to produce the produce, to donate it to the town and to Gifts of Love. And Gifts of Love serves Simsbury, so you're actually getting it on both ends. But, so in order to do that, our one revenue maker out there right now is our 7-week summer camp. And that is supported by a fee-for-service, and that helps to pay some of the bills. We also have an inter-district education program out there that is 100% grant funded. Nothing helps the farm. So since we have taken over the farm from 2013, we have suffered significant financial losses every single year that we have been in operation. And the Connecticut Farm Bureau will say the same thing that you've already heard tonight, that small farms are closing rapidly in Connecticut, and if you do not find an alternative revenue stream, you're not going to be able to make it. So, and up there on the bottom there, just so it does show you how much we have donated this year. That does not include October's donations that we've given to the town and to Gifts of Love. In addition, through grants and generous supporters, we have added to the farm 3 high tunnels, 1 greenhouse, solar panel, barn floor, a pavilion floor, and multiple Eagle Scout projects, which include a bridge, a dock, a fire pit, a duck house, an outdoor classroom, composting station. The Boy Scouts are very good friends to us. We greatly appreciate all that they do. We run all of this with truly only 7 employees, 7 full-time employees, 4 part-time employees, seasonal farmer, 1 seasonal farmer, and 645 volunteers that come out and help us. Without those volunteers, we would not exist. We get large corporations that come out and work the farm for a day all summer long. They start in the spring, take them all the way up. We're running a little behind. We're looking for volunteer groups to help us pull up black plastic. 2 people can't do that. I'm sure you know that. But we are very grateful for the volunteers. And what that also does, though, is it brings a lot of people that are not from Simsbury out to Simsbury to see the farm and see what's out there. And we still get today, people say, I didn't know this was here. Or, I remember it being the dairy farm, but I haven't been back since. And that was a long time ago. So it's great that we're able to bring people out, and a lot of people still don't know about the merger or that the similar missions. So we're always trying to get the word out, and volunteers are a big help with that. These are just some pictures of the farm and education center that are out there. One is the CSA. The dock that the children are on is the one that was built by the Eagle Scouts. You have the inter-district program, the children there, greenhouse, which again, that was a CHIPA grant, and just a picture of the fields. Current barn status. The barn that we are looking to renovate. The entrance of it was built in the late 1800s. The rest of it was built in 1937. We have typically only used it for storage. We've never had any events or anything in there. It is falling apart. That's what those pictures show you. I couldn't see putting a lot of money into fixing it just for storage, but it's a historical landmark that you really just don't want to let go. When we look at the scope of the barn renovation, a couple things. One, I do want to share, we did have a structural assessment done today by a gentleman named James Grant. And James Grant was recommended to us by the Connecticut Historical Trust as well as the State Historic Preservation Organization. And he came out today, and we don't have his final written report, but we were given the green light for the structural end of it. We do need to add supports in the lower level. Our concern was that they were going to tell us we had to move the animals, and if we had to move the animals, that was a no-go for us. The animals are a very important part of the farm and a very big reason why people come out. But we did get the green light, so that's hurdle number 1.
We have met with Henry Miga, and we've met with zoning, and I'll get to the zoning part at the end. But first step would be we need to insulate the barn, and what we want to do is insulate from the outside and then put up a new exterior. We want to keep as much of the original barn the way it is. That's the attraction. If you go put up sheetrock, you don't really have a historic barn anymore. Wiring for heat and air conditioning. We'll need a second and third egress, additional bathrooms, small catering kitchen, and we'll show you in the pictures where we want to put lots of windows in so you can actually see the farm and see the fields when you're there. As well as some lighting, which we would not be providing lightings for weddings or things like that. The lighting that we would need would be minimal, but then we're also going to talk about our collaboration with the Theater Guild and the lighting that they would need. So that would be phase one that we would hope to have completed by 2020 so that we could host something for the 350th. Phase two would mean adding air conditioning and heat and increasing the parking area. And again, thank you for helping us with our parking area, but if we were going to have events more than 75 people, we would need additional parking. And so we have looked at where that would go. These are the estimated costs. They're only estimates by the couple people that we have had out there, and it depends. We have one farm now in, is it Weathersfield, Doug? That just tore down their barn and have offered us all of the wood. So there are a lot of ways, a lot of things can get donated that will defray some of these costs. Okay. Along with this proposed use, when we were having one of our meetings, Matt Whittemer said, you know, I know somebody else that's looking for a forever home. And so he suggested that we collaborate with the Theater Guild of Simsbury, and I'm going to have Donna come up in a minute. But in addition to that, we're looking at hosting larger farm-to-table dinners would be one possibility. Town events. That's going to depend. What we want to do is see what our maximum is and then what that would entail, because however, each increment adds more bathrooms, which adds more parking, which adds more. So we're thinking somewhere between 150 to 250 would be the maximum. But yes, weddings would be one possibility. Corporate outings, meetings. I know that there's sports teams in town that they have too many. When you add the families to it, there's really no place big enough to hold them, except for the Riverview, which they cannot afford. And so we would want it to be very community-minded, community events, and not just the weddings. And that's why we invited the Theater Guild to join us. So it's a little bit broader picture of what it would be there for. It also allows us to expand our education programs. Right now, when we pair Hartford kids with Granby or Simsbury, they're crowded in the classroom. There's 53 of them in there. And so we would like to expand. We've had different school systems that are contacting us to utilize that program, and it's just great. I mean, we've gone from 4th grade to 1st, 2nd, and 4th grade, and expanded from Simsbury to Granby and Avon this year. And I'm going to go to the next slide and ask Donna to come up here. And, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were next. I apologize. No. Before you go, these were drawings that Matt Whittemer did for us, where he took our barn and the Depression era with the arc. It looks more like an arc of a boat inside there. And added, like, we want windows down the far side, skylights up above, because it's pretty dark in there right now. And these just were different drawings or different Photoshops that he did for us to show things that could be done, but it's just really just highlighting weddings right now. But we would not be purchasing any of the lighting here. Like a lot of organizations, we've talked to other barns, and they provide the barn. And then the bride and groom or whoever brings the lighting, brings their linen, brings all of that. We would not be purchasing that. But these just give you some different ideas of what can be done in the barn. Although I don't think you'll let us have those heating units in there.
These weren't vetted by the fire marshal.
Yes.
I was gonna say, I don't see any, there's no sprinklers, but there are heating units.
Oh, no, sprinkler systems we will have, but
Okay.
no, I know you still wouldn't let us have that. But why renovate? We want to renovate so that we can keep it as a historical destination. We want to sustain the town farm. We don't want to go away. We believe that the donations that we offer are valuable to the people that we are serving. Current use versus planned use, again, the barn does need to be renovated or it will fall down. And I would hate to see that happen, and I would hate to put that money in just for storage. Increase the ability to serve families. If we have additional revenue, we can hire additional farmers, which means we can produce more produce to donate. So that's a big step for us, and not be as dependent on volunteers. Last year, our farmer left mid-season, and so through the grace of other farms that donated their produce, we continue to donate to Simsbury Social Services, because the farming community is a tight community. And again, the Farm Bureau report that says that small farms are closing. We went to a agritourism meeting last month, and that was the whole point of the meeting, was that you need to find an additional source of revenue, or else you'll close. We want to expand the volunteer use, which brings more people out to the farm, expand awareness of the town resource, again, expand the education, and we want to have collaborative events with urban farms. Our current farmer did an incubation program at Knox Farm, worked for Hartford Food Systems, and then came to our farm, and we're already doing some collaborative education with them. But we would like to expand that. They would like to be able to have an event. They can't have an event at Knox Farm. They would like to come out and host an event on our farm. Exhibits, such as Joe's. Right now, we have the agricultural tool exhibit, which we pair with our Simple Machines curriculum for the 4th grade. But he has donated an entire exhibit of original farming tools that is really great to see, and we would move that up into the upper barn and show that off to people that come. And just continue to improve Simsbury tourism. Okay, Donna, now you're.
Hello. Before I get to the slide, I'll just give you a quick little intro on the Theater Guild of Simsbury. We've been in town greater than 45 years. In the beginning, it was the musical was everything, and then there was the stepsister play, which got some attention. And as time has gone on, our spring play is just as, expansive as the fall musical. We also have a staged reading series at the public library that's free to the public 5 or 6 months in the January moving forward. This past summer, we performed at Newgate Prison. There was an original play written by Betsy McGuire, and that was based on actual history and characters in costume in collaboration with the state of Connecticut. Additionally, we award scholarships to students entering arts programs at the end of the year. And we've been involved in community events. We're now working with the 350th town celebration. Simsbury Celebrates. We've been doing that for 5 or 6 years. Cemetery plays, the parade. All of that is what you see going on with Theater Guild. And then behind the scenes, we've added a membership program similar to any other not-for-profit. You go to the Hartford Foundation and they tell you, you need to find another alternate source of income. So we have a membership program which pretty much makes up for the grants that have disappeared over the years. So we're a community organization. We've got people as young as 10, over 80, all working together to create theater. And as we grow, and we're at Eno Hall or the Methodist Church or Scout Hall or Slocum Warehouse or the high school, we really don't have a shingle, a place to kind of hang our signs. So we created a committee, No Place Like Home, where you just click your heels together and you hope for a home. But, so we put that out in the universe, and Matt Whitmer came back with, why don't you talk to the Gifts of Love people? So our proposed partnership is to work with them in restoring the barn. And if you think about a wedding and a theater event, they're both very similar in terms of there's a show going on. Sometimes there's food, sometimes it's just strict seating. It doesn't have to be a proscenium, it can be like similar to Playhouse on Park, just basically seating in the right way that people can still see. We'd like to, if this dream comes forward, it would be great to take our spring show and move it to the barn. And so instead of moving in on, Monday morning and having the play be Saturday and moving everything out for the quilt show and all the other things that have to happen for Eno to work for everybody else, we're kind of like a heavy use group. So it would be great if we had, if we were able to work with the barn. We'd like to move our stage reading series there. Basically, we can bring more activity to the farm, make more people aware of Gifts of Love. And then I added up the number of auditions, performances, rehearsals, board meetings, membership events. It's over 100 times a year that we have meetings. And so the beauty of this is that we're like late night owls, and they're in the day with the kids. So we wouldn't be stepping on each other's toes, and we've agreed to kind of work on a calendar together in that regard. And then the next page is, which one? Thank you. So we would create a calendar and work together. We'd share in the fundraising activities. In terms of the trust, I'm not a lawyer, and so it would be great if we were able to get the go-ahead that if we're supporting the farm, whether financial contributions, also with Gifts of Love mission, if we have theater events that also add to their events, then can we be there? Can this be a place for us? So, I don't want anybody, we want to do this the right way so that we can proceed with confidence. And lastly, if, Gifts of Love has a farm event and a festival, and we can have actors there, or, it's their gala and they want to have, hoedown music or whatever. So it's basically, we've got a bunch of people who love to perform, and it'd be great to have a location for us, and we'd be happy to take, our resources along with Gifts of Love resources to make this barn be a permanent structure for many people to use. Thank you.
Thank you.
When you do your plays, how many people come?
So when we do our musicals, it's about, we're probably going to stick to either the high school or the middle school for the musicals, because that's like 300. The plays are much smaller. It's usually about 80 to 100 per performance.
Thank you.
Okay, fundraising. Looking at corporate sponsors who are interested in sustainability of farming, have an interest in historical preservation, interest in Gifts of Love mission, or an interest in the Theater Guild of Simsbury, and also legacy building. And we already have a list of people who are interested in supporting this, and some substantial donors on the line if we get the green light to go ahead. We also have planning grants to apply for, as well as capital improvement grants. So it is, I can't guarantee you that there's $1 million just sitting there for us, but I can guarantee you we'll work hard for it. Zoning, we did present this back in September to the zoning committee. Again, it was a concept, just like we are now. And what they reported was that, unlike a lot of farms, we are actually zoned for industrial use. And so there were not any objections raised, other than the request that we definitely put in air conditioning. They didn't want to be at a wedding where the animals were beneath them without air conditioning. But, and that we would have to file for a tech application. But it was very well received at the zoning meeting. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Mike?
It's application for special exception.
Oh, okay, sorry. Put the wrong one, sorry. Next steps would be, again, to receive the written results on the structural assessment. Once we have a green light, then we want to put together a business plan, which we think is important for our donors, as well as start obtaining the estimates and pro bono services and fundraise. So,
Thank you. I've seen time and time again where when organizations work together, they can accomplish so much more together than they can
Yes.
alone, so I applaud you for the collaboration. What questions do board members have? John?
So I would be interested in seeing the business plan as well, and, because these guys are going to laugh, but I always do math when people do presentations. So I got to ask, and so you're producing, what was it?
5,000 pounds.
Well, you add the two together, 9,000 plus the 5,700, so we'll call it 15,000 pounds of food at roughly $3,500 of value. So what goes into, and that's the total output of produce for the farm? Is that
No.
many pounds?
no, I didn't, that doesn't include Hartford,
Okay,
and we do have a small CSA.
okay. Good. What I'm getting at, is how much money does it take to produce that much, and can the town cut you a check and we can get as much or more produce for far less investment, I guess is my question. Trying to understand the math.
Well, you got to
That's a-
remember, a big chunk of that is done by volunteers right now. So whatever you would cut for us is not what we're spending. Far from it. We have one farmer and a seasonal farmer that produces all of that with volunteers.
I guess, put another way, $3,500 worth of produce doesn't sound like a lot. So, is it? I mean, help me with the understanding of it. Because that doesn't sound like a lot to go into Simsbury Social Services when it
Well,
comes down
we-
to that number.
We bring more than they can give out.
Okay.
We still have a full box of basil from last week that's still there, so, I mean, typically, every week, everything does go, but there are a lot of weeks where there's more than enough, and it's there past our bread day for anyone to take it.
No, I'm not quite, again, phenomenal organization, just
Yep.
when you come down to the, $2.5 million investment, are there, and I gotta ask the question, is there other ways to feed folks and help families without building a wedding facility, I guess is my point? Or is this the way to?
Well, and I don't want it
and
to
it's
be viewed as a
sustainable.
wedding facility, because that would just be one of many, many uses.
But that's the one that's gonna keep it operating in the black, right? I mean, that's where the revenue is gonna come from, to keep the farm going.
Yeah, but I know that another wedding venue here came with 20, what do you call it, public gathering, and we will not be doing that many weddings because we have other events
Okay.
that we'll be doing there. We will be doing larger farm-to-table dinners.
Which are excellent.
Thank you.
Yep.
And the other option is, the hope is that we can hire more farmers and farm more of our land.
Okay.
We have 9.5 acres that we can farm, and currently we farm anywhere between 5 and 6.
Okay. Gotcha. All right, and again, not objecting to it, just, I'm the business guy from the business plan, it's just,
Right.
again, I'm sure that's all been looked at, but I would love to see how that all works out from an investment and long-term sustainability and what happens if, bad years and good years and all that sort of stuff.
Right. We are very much dependent on the weather, but
Yes, oh, I get it.
for our, and this was not a great summer, but be happy to talk more about that, because we would love to be able to give more back. That's part of what, without a revenue stream, we
Right.
can't, and we've been through 3 farmers in 3 years because it's too much for them. And the farmer that we have now really wants to see the farm become well-known again and be respected, because we have lost respect in the farming community.
Are you able to share with us approximately what the magnitude of the gap is to make the farm sustainable, or at least where that break-even point would be?
There's a break-even point, and then there's, I guess you have to look at it on several different levels. There's making us whole for what we've done so far, would probably, it ranges from $30,000 to $40,000 loss every year. And then there's what money it would take to get the right amount of farmers on there farming the land. So then that would be even more additional revenue. And then there's things like We need a new roof on the education building. I think that's pretty important, and, you know, we've had people out there to give us quotes. There's always some maintenance that goes on out there, things that need to be fixed.
Thank you.
So your only source of revenue right now is the camps?
That's our largest source of revenue. We do get probably about 4,000 from farm-to-table dinners. And, like I said, the others are grant funded.
640 volunteers.
Yes, between Gifts of Love and the farm, yes. And we have regular volunteers that come and work actual jobs at Gifts of Love, but then the corporate, they start coming in April, and they come through the end of October, and that's anywhere, it could be 8 people, it could be 40 people. And they come and they work the farm for the day. And some stay and do team building.
Can you, you probably said this before, but the Gifts of Love mission of providing furniture, clothing, perishable goods, things like that, how does that fit into the farm those are 2 separate locations and they operate independently? Or do they?
They're 2 separate locations, but they all operate under Gifts of Love.
So those revenue streams don't cross? So the money that you raise from the farm, or say from camp revenue and table, does that go to the furniture and non-perishables and clothing or not? So
No.
there's no crossover between any of that?
No.
So all of the production from the farm just goes to perishable food items, essentially?
Yes.
What about the animals?
The animals are paid for, they're in the camp budget, because
Okay.
that's a big attraction. Kids actually fight over mucking the stalls. And they won't go home and clean their bedrooms, but they do, they literally do.
And on behalf of the Housing Authority, I'd like to thank you for your donations of food to the Housing Authority also.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I have to ask this question, but it's just because of naivete or it being ill-informed. I do applaud the organization. The heart is boundless in what you provide. My 4 kids went to these folks' camp. My 4 kids went to your camp. I can't comment which one they came home dirtier from, probably theirs. But so by the intent of the original deed and trust of the Eno family is that the purpose of the farm can only be used then for the production of this food, essentially, for the benefit of those underprivileged who meet that status. Is that correct?
It says that the main purpose of the farm has to be for doing that, yes.
So getting to Sean's point, I think we're kind of running around. It's like we're creating this very large apparatus to support a very costly apparatus to support a very small output, in a sense. And I wonder if the business case has to be reviewed, it would seem. Concerned about that long-term spiraling and continuing to become less not viable, but more of a liability, is my concern. I'm sure you all have looked at that, but it seems like they're sort of opposed with each other long-term. I don't have an answer for you, but that's what I can see you're fighting with.
Well, I mean, we have looked at all sorts of different revenue streams to try and get out there. And, you know, at one point, after I came on board, it was, well, maybe we shouldn't keep doing the farm because we can't keep losing money. Actually, the first year that they merged, I wasn't there then, but all staff had to be, 25% of their hours had to be reduced just so we could make payroll, and that was at Gifts of Love. We've come a long way since then, but we're far from breaking even. And we've looked at, you know, we do have a small CSA. We're not as competitive as a lot of the other ones because all we have to offer is produce. We don't have fruit, we don't have wine, we don't have maple syrup, we don't have the array that other CSAs have, and it just has never really taken off. We were hoping that that would be the moneymaker to break even. But there's also the issue that we're not farming all of the farmable land because we can't afford the farmers. So I would like to farm more and give more back, but we wanted to get on the bandwagon and did a whole business plan on growing hops, but we're down by the river and hops don't like wet land, so that didn't take off. Trust me, we're trying to think of other revenue streams, but then that beautiful historic barn is sitting there. It would be a shame to let it fall down.
If I can reframe this, if this were purely about the most cost-effective way to help food insecurity in the valley, I don't know if this would be it. But when I think about the larger picture of things we say as a community that we support, from the POCD, from barn preservation to working farms, et cetera, to educating our kids through field trips, et cetera, to me it's about the package. And when you look at the whole package, it begins to make more sense to me.
I agree with you.
Thank you.
With the exception that we have a trust sitting over top of us, which makes this a unique
Yeah.
project versus a typical town.
Just keep
We get
chasing
to-
something, yeah.
So I'm all for conceptually this, but again, I think the devil's in the details in terms of that business plan and the long-term sustainability given this model, because there's going to be potentially substantial cost increases from an insurance standpoint, from an electricity standpoint, from a maintenance standpoint, and again, looking at all that to make sure that it does solve the problem.
Can I say something maybe
Yeah.
to help also?
Would you mind just stepping up to the mic so for the
Absolutely.
TV cameras can get you?
So, I'm Lydia Tadone. As Susan had mentioned, I'm on the Board of Directors of Gifts of Love. I'm also on the Board of Education. And I am the longest-serving board member. I was on the board of the Simsbury Community Farm when we first took over the farm, God, at least 10, 15 years ago. Dunny Barney, many of you will remember him and a few others, that we had formed our group, our volunteer group, in the purpose of looking at the community farm of Simsbury at the time, of where we were going, what the mission was, and henceforth and move forward, we've had a merger, and here we are today. So I have seen the farm gone from a for-profit farm, when it was Town Farm Dairy, to the community farm of Simsbury, to where we are today. I think in one aspect, when we talk about the viability of the farm, this is a town-owned piece of property. This is an investment to the town. I encourage you and invite you also to come out to the farm, if you haven't, to see the barn and the condition that the barn is in. As Susan had mentioned and alluded to, it may not, withstand the next few years. I mean, even though many barns can last for 2 or 3 more years, but this barn is falling apart. This barn is in need of some major structural repair work and what have you. So the other thing I'd like to also point out that, we as a board, when we talk about this and about what to do with the barn and the revenue streams coming in to the farm and into the Gifts of Love, this is all going back into the clients, into those that we serve, in the needs of the town and also within the community. So, as Susan had mentioned, the X amount of produce that we do produce a year, that is also turned around and given to social services. It's also food share. We have all that. We would love to be able to farm more than the 9 acres. That is one of the goals that we've had for the past several years, is how do we increase that production, that food production, which is primarily produce, to also be used to be garnered for those in need within the town of Simsbury. And we also do supply food share and also Hartford. So we have a lot of collaboration with the areas on this. But again, the revenue stream is the important piece. Without that coming in, on town-owned land, town-owned investment, we're at a quandary is how do we move forward with the mission and the purpose of the Gifts of Love to who we serve, how we serve, and why we serve. So I hope that's helped you. As Susan mentioned, we are in the beginning stage with this, also in the beginning collaboration with the Theater Guild, with Historical Society, who has really stepped up to assist us. So there are a lot of groups in town that are partnering with us to see this vision get to where this needs to be,
keeping in mind the reason why we are here and the reason why we want to see this succeed, for generations to come, as it has from the original EOD. So I hope this answers a little bit, Shauna, what you were asking, maybe Chris, what you were a little bit of asking also in that. The other piece too, I will put my Board of Ed hat on, is in terms of the educational components. A few years ago, we started the educational piece, which we are the only farm that has this collaboration with a school system in Connecticut. So the Simsbury Board of Education in the public schools, we have the visitations, the field trips, students go out, it's built into the curriculum. We worked very hard to work that to where we felt it needed to be in moving with the standards, as you know, in the next generation of standards in the state of Connecticut. But we also have the interdistrict grants, which are extremely important, extremely crucial, that we have with the urban. Our closest would be Hartford. So we have partnering districts. All of that is, it results in grants and others that do come because we have put forward with this program. It is an extremely successful program. It's the only one in the state that is like this with the interdistrict piece of this. So looking at the barn, looking at the education center, right now we have one, we call it the education center, call it what you may. We use it for everything, from teaching and learning to classes to what have you, to filling buckets for dirt. That is our only area. And so having the additional the additional renovation of the barn will serve a multi-tiered process.
Thank you.
So, all right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just, what's the next steps?
I will just say that we have, but I know you guys are going to do it too, we have had that deed looked at by several attorneys, and their understanding is that any revenue made has to be 100% reinvested into the farm. And that is our plan.
Good.
Thank you, Susan. So one of the items that we're working on our end is I've brought this issue to our town attorney's attention and have asked him to look at the trust documents. We want to make sure that this would be a compatible use. So Bob is taking a look at that. He and I have discussed this, and even if he doesn't think that the trust documents, if this isn't a compatible use, he feels that we could make a pretty compelling case to the state if this is going to be what makes the farm sustainable, and if this is what's going to help the farm break even and be able to continue to grow food to help those in need, that he does not think that's a hard sell if for some reason that, again, the trust documents aren't compatible with the use. So there are a handful of items that are pretty critical in terms of whether or not we could more seriously consider whether or not to proceed. The structural assessment is a key piece, working through the issue around the trust documents, fundraising, as well as the zoning piece that was mentioned earlier. So if any of those are a no-go, essentially this project is a no-go. I think for next steps, it's important for Gifts of Love to continue to work on those items that they need to work on, and for Bob to work on the item that we need for him to work on. If ultimately it looks like those items will not be a barrier, I would suggest bringing this project back before you and then asking you all to decide whether or not you would like to proceed. Because ultimately, what I think would make the most sense, and I also ran this by Bob and he concurred, would be to structure a donor agreement. So Bob and I would get your authorization to work on structuring a donor agreement. We would then receive the improvements to the capital asset as a donation, and then ultimately that capital asset would be ours. So we would need to update the lease agreement at that point as well. So kind of long term, if this project goes all the way to the finish line, that's what we would be looking at.
I think if there's a takeaway from tonight or a point of skepticism, it would be around the business case, so making sure that that's built out in whatever the next step is that comes in front of us. Okay, great.
Thank you all for
Appreciate you
being
guys
here
coming in.
tonight.
Thank
Really
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was great.
I love having are those alpaca? Yeah. Okay, nice.
$9.90.
Appreciated that touch. We're going to move on now to the first Selectmen's report. We're going to begin tonight with bears. While bear sightings have become more common in recent years, this year we've seen a marked increase in bears coming closer to people and their homes. This trend is reflected in our 911 call data, and it is personally concerning to me. Nationally, attacks by black bears are exceedingly rare. Still, I'm concerned about the growing proximity of these wild animals. I'm in regular contact with Senator Witkos and Representative Hampton, and I've shared my concerns with them. Policy that would impact the bear population is determined at the state level, which is why we're meeting with them, along with the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection this week. I know that when the conversation comes up about managing our bear population, it can evoke strong emotions. I want to be clear that I'm not advocating at this point any particular policy solution, but I am interested in gathering more information and learning about how other parts of our country manage similar challenges, so we as a community can determine the best path forward for Simsbury. On the economic development front, at our meeting on Wednesday, October 10th, the Board of Selectmen appointed 7 town residents to serve on the new Economic Development Commission. Over the next month, the Board of Selectmen, I'll be working with the Board of Selectmen, in particular Cheryl Cook, on identifying specific projects with measurable goals that the EDC will focus on in its first term. On Veterans Day, Sunday, November 11th, the public is invited to attend the annual Simsbury Veterans Day ceremony, beginning with a moment of silence at exactly 11 a.m. It'll take place at Eno Memorial Hall, 800 Hot Meadow Street. The Simsbury Public Schools, the Simsbury Special Education Parent-Teacher Organization, and the Community for Care are sponsoring a forum on anxiety among children. Lynn Lyons, author of Anxious Kids, Anxious Parents, will be discussing strategies to cope with childhood anxiety. All people ages 13 and over are invited to attend this forum at Henry James Middle School, Monday, November 5th at 6:30 p.m. As the weather gets colder and days get shorter, our police department is asking cyclists to take some safety precautions, in particular mounting a white headlamp on the front of the bike and a red light on the back. Also, cyclists are encouraged to wear a reflective vest or jacket. Also, Simsbury Free Bike will end the season Monday, October 29th. That's 1 week from today. All bicycles will be removed and from designated distribution centers until the season reopens in May. The Simsbury Chamber of Commerce presents its annual Chili Challenge, October 27th. That's Saturday from noon to 5 at Simsbury Meadows. $10 admission for anyone 11 and older, and all the chili you can eat at your own risk. All right. No, it's delicious. It's fantastic. It's delicious. Just chili doesn't sit well with everybody. That's all I'm saying. With that, I'll turn it over to Maria.
Great. Thank you.
It's a wonderful fundraiser, and I really encourage everybody to attend.
Just stop now.
Let's move on.
Oh, goodness. Well, good evening. Under items for Board of Selectmen business, just a quick reminder that our budget kickoff is going to occur on Monday, December 3rd. That's the meeting known as the Tri-Board meeting between the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and Board of Education, and we'll be having that meeting at the Simsbury Public Library. The work group that you established to help us evaluate the facility use policy, fee schedule, and fee waivers for Eno Memorial Hall will be meeting for the first time this Friday morning, October 26th. Again, our goal is to bring some final recommendations to the full board to you no later than December 17th, with the hope that any changes we might implement would take effect on January 1st. The Purchasing Ordinance and Policy Work Group met on October 12th and came to consensus on proposed changes to the policy. Staff is incorporating those proposed changes into the policy, again, hoping to present that to you for review and possible adoption of the policy revisions at your November 12th meeting. As you may recall, the town attorney notified us recently that what we thought and characterized as a purchasing ordinance was in fact a purchasing policy, and that the work group came to a recommendation that the revisions remain as a policy as opposed to an ordinance. For departmental news and notes, we are very pleased to announce that we have hired our very first full-time social worker, Kristen Kalman. And this was the position that was authorized during the budget process. So this is our very first full-time social worker that will be doing direct service work with our residents. So just an incredible opportunity for the department and for the community. Kristen has a master's degree in social work. She is a certified school social worker, and she's also a licensed clinical social worker. So she has a tremendous skill set that she'll be bringing to us, and we look forward to working with her. She'll be starting November 5th. For Culture, Parks, and Recreation, I wanted to announce that our director, Tom Tyberski, was selected as the Connecticut 2018 Outstanding Professional of the Year. I think that's quite a testament to his accomplishments and his professionalism. And he will be honored at a luncheon on November 20th. Myself and Melissa and Lisa Kareem, who I assigned as Tom's peer mentor, will be joining him for that award ceremony.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, we're really proud of him. quite an
Set the bar awful
accomplishment.
high for the first year.
You sure did. You sure did. From our finance department, Jennifer Russo. She is currently a staff member in our assessment division, but prior to that, she was working in our revenue division. She is going to be receiving her Certified Connecticut Municipal Collector Certification, that's CCMC. She also has tax assessment certification. It's quite unusual when somebody has achieved both of those designations, so congratulations to Jennifer on that accomplishment. Lindsay Neffinger will be joining the library staff. Actually, today was her first day. She is the new adult services librarian. Lindsay does have a master's degree in library and information science. And Lindsay is replacing Ms. Celia Roberts, who just recently retired after a very long and successful career with the town. So welcome to Lindsay. From the town manager's office, I won't elaborate much on the bear issue that Eric touched on, but I do also want to note, we had been receiving a number of concerns and complaints around bears and bears getting into garbage and spreading litter and debris and things of that nature. So we, last week, we distributed through social media some safety tips to help residents keep bears away from your garbage. So I think that's a really helpful educational tool, and I'm grateful to those that helped us get that out there. For special events and programs, the Culture, Parks, and Recreation Department is partnering with our police department to offer RAD self-defense classes, which is rape, aggression, defense. We will be having instructors from the Simsbury Police Department who will be putting those classes on. Registration information will be out soon, and classes will begin November 27th. Also from Culture, Parks, and Recreation, the ice rink is scheduled to open on November 3rd. We do have a number of scheduled times for public skating on Saturday and Sunday afternoons, as well as Saturday evenings. A note on Simsbury Celebrates, the annual Gingerbread House Contest is back, and we are looking for folks to participate in that. So information is available at simsburycelebrates.com. Registration is now open for youth basketball. That is for boys and girls in grades K through 4, and we've provided a link to the registration information. On November 3rd, we have a household hazardous waste collection event that will be held out at Public Works. That's going to be at the garage on Town Forest Road. That will be from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., and we've also noted some sample items that residents can bring during the drop-off. And lastly, just a reminder that next Monday evening, Tom Hennick from the Freedom of Information Commission will be here in Simsbury doing a sort of a nuts and bolts session for our employees, our board, committee, and commission members. So folks are encouraged to attend. That will be at the public library, and we hope you can join us for that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Lots going on. We're going to move on now to Selectmen action. Item A is tax refund requests. Is there a motion effective October 22nd, 2018 to approve the presented tax refunds in the amount of $5,349.68 and to authorize Town Manager Maria Capriola to execute the tax refunds?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Item B is the proposed acceptance of the Greater Hartford Dial-A-Ride Assistance Grant. The town's been awarded more than $6,600 to help cover the cost of the Dial-A-Ride program. Is there a motion effective October 22nd, 2018 to accept the fiscal year 18-19 grant funds from the Greater Hartford Transit District to support our Dial-A-Ride program and to authorize Town Manager Maria Capriola to execute all documents related to the grant award?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Item C is the proposed Archdiocese of Hartford donation. Wonderful. The town's received a $1,565 donation from the Archdiocese of Hartford to support the Food Closet program. So any donations of $1,500 or more need to be accepted by the Board of Selectmen. Is there a motion effective October 22nd, 2018 to accept the donation from the Archdiocese of Hartford in the amount of $1,565 for the purpose of supporting our Food Closet program?
So moved.
Oh, second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Kristen, could I just ask you to say a few words about, because I know we've been talking about food insecurity tonight with the Gifts of Love presentation, just another opportunity to highlight some of the services that we offer our residents.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. And just to give you another connection between the town of Simsbury and Gifts of Love, is that we're both active members on the Hunger Action Team. The Hunger Action Team is a group that's led by Food Share, and it's a community group that works to find solutions to help alleviate hunger in its communities, and also to bring about awareness of hunger and food insecurity in the individual communities. So we do meet monthly, and we rotate in the towns of where we meet. And with our food programs here with the town of Simsbury, we do have 4 unique individual food opportunities for people that are food insecure to access food in our community. Our biggest food opportunity is called Cheese Day, which is a throwback to when actual wheels of cheese were distributed. And every so often we do actually hand out cheese again. And I'm motioning to Cheryl because Cheryl is one of our volunteers that comes every month to help distribute food. And all of you are welcome to do that and have the opportunity to experience it. We have about 140 registered households right now for Cheese Day. Cheese Day happens on the 4th Wednesday of every month in the morning. And with Cheese Day, we distribute 4 fresh items that we purchase from Fitzgerald's to all of the households that attend. Everyone receives a protein or meat item, a vegetable, a fruit, and a dairy item. And then everyone is welcome to take bags of frozen chicken, which we receive as a donation from Kentucky Fried Chicken. And we also stock everyone up with all of our pantry items. So I approximate when I sign people up that they're probably going to receive about a week's worth of groceries, more or less, depending on their family size. We encourage people to bring their shopping carts with them because that's how much food that you get. Our second program is called our Food Closet, and that's the 3rd Wednesday of every month. Right now we have about 60 registered households. That program's a little bit smaller because it's just a small opportunity to get pantry items. We encourage people to use that program if they find at the end of the month that their food stamps or their SNAP benefit isn't making it. Also because we stock the closet with items that you can't purchase with food stamps, such as toilet paper and toothpaste. So we encourage people to utilize that. And as was mentioned before, we have Bread Day, which is every Tuesday. We have a really generous community, and we get donations from Fitzgerald's, Panera, Starbucks, and Brookside every week. I actually went out to Panera this morning and picked it up. And that goes out every Tuesday to anyone in the community that wants to come and take bread and also receive the food donations from Gifts of Love. And then we also encourage people to participate in Mobile Food Share. Mobile Food Share is a program that's not coordinated by our office, but it's promoted by our office. It's every other Monday at the First Church of Christ here in Simsbury, and it's basically a mobile food truck where they come, and in half an hour they open up their doors, put the food on tables, and anyone can come. There's no registration, and you get a large amount of food from that as well. We encourage large families to follow the truck, so not only do they get the schedule for Simsbury, but they get it for Avon and Granby as well, and we encourage them to go to all the spots, and in particular because if it's on a different day, you'll receive different items. So those are our food programs. The other thing that we also do is we coordinate applications for SNAP benefits, for food stamp benefits. We have a volunteer that comes twice a month to our office, and we schedule appointments 8 times a month for people to be able to get those benefits. It's much easier than going to the state. So that's a food program.
So, because this was not known to a lot of folks, can you go back, you just mentioned toilet paper and toothpaste, other items that people think would be essential that aren't covered by benefits that people can donate?
Yes, correct. So we are open and amenable and graciously accept any donations, non-perishable items for our food closet, financial donations to help support the purchase of food from Fitzgerald's for Cheese Day, and the household and the personal items that aren't covered by your state or federal benefits. So SNAP does not cover things such as laundry detergent, dishwashing, soap, toothpaste, deodorant, toilet paper, things that you and I and every human being needs on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I don't think that's widely known. People assume that, the benefits cover what you would deem to be essential, and that's not the case. So those are in substantial need in a lot of communities.
Kristen, you guys will also take gift cards from Stop and Shop, or sometimes, I know if you can get a $10 gift card, you can just donate the gift card, and somebody can go and buy personal items on their own, too.
Thank you. And that's in particular, a lot of times, the perishable items that we can't supply. So if a family's really struggling, we'll offer them a gift card. And also, just to put in a plug, we're trying to get a little bit better program going for gas gift cards. Here in the valley, a lot of things are spread farther apart, and sometimes we have families that really can't even fill their tank to get to work the next day. So that's my shameless plug for something else that we need.
Not shameless, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. Okay, moving on to item D. Our police department needs to replace its bulletproof vests about every 5 years, and the town's been awarded a federal grant of more than $3,200 that covers half the cost of replacing 7 vests. Can I have a motion effective October 22nd, 2018, to accept the fiscal year 18-19 Bulletproof Vest Partnership Grant and to authorize Town Manager Maria Capriola to execute all documents related to the grant award?
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Item E, annually, the town submits a grant application for an emergency management performance grant. This year, the fire department is applying for a grant of a little more than $12,000 that would be matched by the fire district. The town serves as a pass-through for the receipt of this grant. Is there anything you wanted to add to this one, Maria?
Sure. I will just note that earlier this year, shortly before my arrival, the board did complete an authorization. This particular grant, the agency that administers this grant at the state level likes for organizations to have the legislative body do a resolution that simply says proactively that if the grant is awarded, that I, as the chief executive, can execute those documents. So that was actually authorized in late January of this year. But this simply is sort of reaffirming the ability to apply for those grant dollars.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Is there a motion effective October 22nd, 2018, to apply for the fiscal year 2018-2019 Emergency Management Performance Grant in the amount of $12,179?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Before we get to the Economic Development Work Plan and our priorities, would there be any objection if we moved up the public gathering permit application to get Robin out of here at a decent time? Okay, seeing none?
Objection.
I will do
I saw
that.
you pulling up those pictures, those signs last week.
Let me get my notes for that one. So, the Public Gathering Committee met with Simsbury Celebrates. Simsbury Celebrates is scheduled to take place November 24th from 5 to 8:30 p.m., which is a little bit of a shorter event than previous years. Feel free to, is there anything you wanted to add?
Actually, you just hit really the only difference that we've had is just they are reducing that time frame mainly because of cost, just the amount of donations they came in, so they figured they could curtail that a little bit. So they're doing 5 to 8:30, but everything is essentially the same as it has been for many, many years. Closing down the Route 10 and kind of having all their unique activities that they have, and the fire truck parade and fireworks at the end, so.
Great. Now my daughter can see the end of it. 'Cause it's early.
Perfect.
All right, excellent. Any other questions? Okay. Is there a motion effective October 22nd, 2018, to approve the public gathering application for Simsbury Celebrates 2018 as presented and to authorize the issuance of the public gathering permit?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that motion carries. Yeah, have a good night.
I love this map.
So item F is the Economic Development Commission Work Plan, which Melissa is going to pull up. So board members had the opportunity to basically rank their priorities, and this is taking a look at what shook out on top. And really what we wanted to take away from tonight's conversation is consensus, I think, around the high and medium items. If there's anything low that we would advocate should be higher or medium, this would be the time to do that. Because the next step is that Cheryl and I are going to take these items and turn actionable deliverables out of these that either the new EDC will do or it could become a future goal of Maria or assigned to another member of town staff, or it's something Sarah could take on as part of Main Street. But our thought is, let's figure out what are those top things that we really want to do. So as we look, one item came out as high, which is the Infrastructure Rebate Program Fund. And then, actually, can you go to the next one, which has them ranked? I like that view.
You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
So as we look at these, especially the 5s and the 4s, which are the ones I imagine we're going to give the most attention to, are these the items that we think are the right ones to be there?
The only thing I'll comment, just sort of, I was surprised that didn't get more weight. Reflecting on some of tonight's public audience is reassessing our application time service metrics. And that's something that, to me, is consistently, we either get feedback on an associate shortcoming or the process shortcoming. And I think that we have fantastic staff, and we continue to top grade our staff. But I wonder if we're going to continue to hear about time service. And that's why I was kind of surprised to see this. Because everything, when you talk about economic development, you look elsewhere across our country, it's how can we make things more friendly and easier for people to do business with us. And that, to me, is something that was surprising.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was thinking about that too the other day.
Yeah, they both ended up as mediums, the consolidating meetings and trying to move that along,
Yeah.
but.
I'm not pushing it forward, I'm just saying for
agree.
public audience,
Yeah.
I'm surprised that we collectively
It's a good point. I mean, that's potentially low-hanging fruit, right? There's probably not a lot of time investment or study needed there versus some of the other ones, which we ranked as high or medium, but probably are more of a project-oriented thing.
What I mentioned is that if we're going to be looking at those through the lenses of folks who are on the Economic Development Committee. So not only is it people internally looking to, Maria and her staff looking internally at their own selves, but getting feedback from users,
Agreed.
essentially, of the process. So I think it may be low-hanging, but it's perspective from the external perspective.
It's important. So what I'm suggesting is perhaps we can look at this list with what's a, not only high, medium, and low, but what's a long, medium, and short-term project. Because to me, something like that, signage, they may be ranked lower, but they're potentially very easy and cheap to fix in a short-term basis versus more of a visionary of promoting culture and tourism, which is a 12, 18, 24 ongoing effort. So yes, this reflects our priorities, but I think we can also look at it, Chris, to your point of what can we get done quickly that will really benefit and incrementally, as in your world, move us forward, right?
Well, we're talking about consolidate meetings and multiple land use boards. Is that the specific one that you're pointing out, Chris, or?
I found that the fact that it fell where it did, and then set maximum time limits for both of those. So those to me are hopeful business people being affected by an experience in this building, throughout this building. So
Yep.
that's.
So just a couple things. The one that's highest is reviewing previous recommendations. And the Economic Development Task Force had a subgroup that specifically looked at timeframe. So that's something that could be relooked at. I don't think that's a simple project because you have extensive conversations that have to occur across boards and commissions. There's tremendous, it's not as simple as we think it might be.
Oh, no.
When you look at that, so I wouldn't recommend that that's a real simple one.
See, I disagree because we've already gone down the route of assessment. I mean, there's been 4 groups of people that have looked at that and made recommendations. The land use committees have ignored it.
Yeah,
But the recommendation's on the table.
Right, so I think you have to have a process that land use commissions can embrace. So I'm just saying, you can pull it out of our highest priority, which is looking at what's already been done, pull that recommendation out and have that looked at again.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And there are already, there's projects in the planning office now that are already chipping away at that.
Yep.
Right. And some of the process improvements are going to have to come from staff. And that is going to fall on people other than us to do that.
Yeah.
And that's going to take some review and collaboration between the staff and the administration to do that. And that is not something that, we or the Economic Development Commission can step into. So I'm happy to recommend that to Maria as something that we would like her to pursue as a goal, but, that is something that I think we have to be sensitive to, that's, a lot of that is a staff process.
Yeah. I appreciate that, Chris, because I don't want to lose sight of that, and I think that when we talk at our next work group meeting, I'd like to make sure that there are some things on the work plan that are at least, speaking to this issue. And I think to Sean's point around, some of these might not be the highest impact or the highest priority, but they could be low-hanging fruit, and I think making sure that the EDC has some good, solid wins in its first year is going to be okay. Yeah, exactly. Anything else?
I thought this was a good exercise overall, just to consolidate a pretty substantial topic that can go in a lot of different directions that I think has challenged this board and prior boards in this community for a while. And again, I think this is a good way to see if, on an annual basis or every other year basis, we can, just sit down and make sure that we're having a closer touch point in an organized fashion to give direction, because I think in a lot of the past, it's been confusing in terms of what does everybody mean, what does everybody want, what are the priorities. So as I step back and look at the output here, this is, for me, really helpful to be able to communicate with residents and other boards of what we think the community is looking for. So, well done. And we did it without red dots.
There were some stars involved.
Just one thing that I have kind of a hunger for in the process, and is in this process really identifying if we are going to be recruiting businesses outside of Simsbury, who are those people, and how are we going to market to them directly? Because moving from the general to the specific is where you can really, I think, begin to deliver some results on that. So I personally, and I'm not suggesting change this, but I like the idea of focusing on entrepreneurs who want to live in a town that they have their business, as well as promoting entrepreneurism among students who are graduating from the high school. So I'm not recommending moving those up, but one thing that for me I'd like to see come out of this is a real crystallized definition that if we're going to be recruiting companies from outside of Simsbury, these are the types of people, types of companies, and here's how we're going to go about doing that. So,
good point.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So the next exercise we want to do is similar. It's looking at the goals and priorities that we put on a long list at the 3 hours we were at the library. And I think what we're going to look to do in next steps is a similar exercise where we take those and then identify the ones that we think are the higher priority items, so we can figure out how to make this list manageable. Maria, was there anything you wanted to add before I ask for feedback?
Sure, just very briefly. This was, Melissa and I worked on this document. It was our effort to characterize the discussion that did occur at that meeting. We were able to sort it into about 5 topic areas: financial management, maintaining quality of life, community character, recreation, infrastructure, and transportation. The various bullet points, again, were sort of topics that generated quite a bit of discussion. We also, just for sort of note-taking purposes, did try and flag if, there was a particular board member that this was, or seemed to be of a lot of importance to, just to flag that. So we'll sort of have that captured. Wanted to make sure that you all felt that this was a fair characterization of the discussion that you had. Wanted to see if you think we just didn't get something right, if there's something missing from this list. And once we have a pretty decent draft of this list, my suggestion would be for us to go back and prioritize, similar to what we did for the EDC work plan. We could do that over the next week and a half or so, and hopefully have that back to you for your November 14th meeting. I also think that this document in particular will be incredibly helpful for the tri-board meeting. When we're talking about setting up, the budget as a policy document, as an operations guide, I think it's important for the Board of Finance to understand what your strategic priorities are, because as I'm framing and developing the budget, largely when you're thinking about resource allocation, service delivery, these goals are going to be very critical in shaping that budget. So again, I think having this firmed up in advance of tri-board would be very helpful.
Great. So I see the splash pad is on there. But, no, I mean, other than that, it's not prioritized at this point, but I just wanted to make sure that...
So is disc golf, don't forget.
Yeah, disc golf is on there, too.
I don't know who SA is, but that guy had a big mouth at that meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the splash pad's timely, huh?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're only $207,000 according to the bond commission.
I know, I've actually done some research on this topic. But I just want to, we're going to be ranking this list and spending more time prioritizing it, but I just wanted to make sure that this at least reflects the conversation that we had the other day.
Yeah, eyeballing it, I think it does. There's benchmarking on there, there's infrastructure, there's financial transparency, there's the north end infrastructure, bike path, looks like all the big items, the financial metrics that Chris Peterson was bringing up, or financial systems, payroll, et cetera.
I appreciate the categories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions or feedback on this? Okay, wonderful, thank you. So we'll do a similar exercise. Moving on to appointments and resignations. Is there a motion to accept with our thanks the resignation of Robert Michael Goman as a regular member of the Board of Education effective November 30th of 2018?
So moved.
Second.
Is there,
I second it.
okay, whoever.
Okay, it's
Cheryl?
okay, whoever.
Sherry can
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Is there a motion to accept with our thanks the resignation of Andrea Erickson as a member of the Juvenile Review Board, retroactive to October 1st, 2018?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And is there a motion effective October 22nd, 2018, to appoint Bryant P. Lishness as a member of the Juvenile Review Board to the slot designated for a probation officer from the Juvenile Court?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that motion carries. Thank you for that recommendation, by the way. Okay, moving on to the minutes from the October 10th regular meeting. Is there any?
One more
Did I
question.
skip the?
Nope.
You- I think you missed the.
You're doing Simsbury Housing
Housing
Authority.
Authority, only because I'm going to get my head.
Hey,
Trouble with Sherry if you don't do it.
Where is it? What am I missing?
Agenda that went out on,
Oh, look at that. I got to be working off the most recent document. Is there a motion effective October 22nd, 2018, to appoint Brian Doonan as a regular member of the Simsbury Housing Authority with a term expiring April 1, 2019?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, and that motion carries. Thank you, Sean. And a review of the minutes from October 10th. Any changes anyone would suggest? Okay, then those minutes stand as presented. Any selectmen liaison and subcommittee reports? Cheryl?
Thank you for mentioning the Community for Care program. I'll just repeat it for SATV. November 5th at Henry James Middle School, which is not our usual location. We are pleased to have a very well-known author in to discuss anxiety issues in children and their parents. And I think it'll be a very informative program. The same author is giving a seminar for our teachers here in town the following day as professional development. So this is an opportunity for parents to come out and hear the same type of information that our teachers will be hearing, as sort of a collaborative program. So I think that's very nice collaboration between all of those three committees, which I'm really
Is there
happy with.
any, is it encompass all ages across the spectrum? or is it
13 and
folk-
over, we're
13 and over? I'm
recommending
sorry,
it for.
okay.
I also wanted to mention that you'll remember in our last budget cycle, we approved some funds for a lunch to be served at the senior center, and that has now started November 6th, and I actually brought the menu.
Wonderful.
But it just sort of follows in our our topic tonight of food insecurity. Lunch is available to eat in or take out from noon to 1, essentially $2 for a sandwich, $2 for soup, and all are welcome. So is also in the Senior Center newsletter this month, if you'd like to check for more details.
Okay. Is there anything else anyone else wanted to bring up? Okay. Any questions anyone had under the communications item? Okay. In that case, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Eric.
It isn't actually taken over Super Tuesday. So that's why it's kind of a big discussion.
Oh.